Shoot! Hi, I'm the Moorlander and this is Moorlander EDC. Today it's kind of a first. This is the first time that I'm releasing a video on a Friday. And what I was thinking is maybe to release them on Fridays. Usually I release them on a Sunday, but today's Friday, and I just wondered if you like me, then what I do is I get home on a Friday night, get some beer and just sit down once my wife's finished with the soaps, and I catch up on my weekly YouTube stuff. So if you prefer them on a Friday night, then I'll start releasing them on a Friday night instead. But today what we are here to look at is the pocket chef knife from Leading Edge Knife Works. Now the guys from there, Ev and Stephen, have been working hard and been talking to me about this knife for quite some time now. It's a bit of a labour of love for them that they've got this knife. So what I'll do is we'll turn the camera around as normal. We'll have a look at this knife a little bit more. While I'm doing that, if this is your first time to the channel, please feel free to hit that like button if you do like this content. If you're back to the channel, then you know the deal. If you're not subscribed already, then please hit that subscribe button. That'd be awesome. And don't forget to hit that bell notification. As soon as any content comes live, then you'll be able to get to see it. For now, let's turn the camera around, look at this awesome little knife. Now normally what I do at this point is I go into some specifications about the knife, but what I thought I'd do instead was just give you some information really about where this knife came from and how it was, what inspired it. Obviously we know that it came from Leading Edge Knife Works, but the ethos around this knife really came from the design of the Spyderco Spydiechef, which the guys at Leading Edge Knife Works, Evan and Stephen, fell in love with, and they wanted to create something that paid homage to that knife, but also they wanted to make sure that it was something that kept within the boundaries of the UK knife laws. So as I mentioned before, in the UK you can't have a knife or legally carry a knife in public that has some sort of locking mechanism. So slip joints and friction folders are perfect here in the UK. The other main stipulation is that the blade length needs to be 3 inches or less, or 7.62 centimeters, whatever it is, or 7.52 centimeters or less, to make sure that it can be carried in public. So that's really where this knife came from, their love of the Spydiechef. So this has mainly been designed as a mid-tech knife with a 3-inch blade that's CNC machined, and then once it's machined out, it's then hand finished. It will probably end up being finished off as well with a hollow grind. This particular model here though, this is completely handmade, and these will be available on occasion. The tool, or at least the stock that this is made from a 4mm 01 tool steel, and then it's ground flat to have a 0.3mm thickness behind the edge, behind the cutting edge. The main reason that they've done that is to make sure that when it's heat treated, which they do all in-house, they have their own even heat kiln, and it's hardened up to 62 HRC, which has also been tested by Davey over at Brock Knives. They wanted to make sure that they kept the thickness of the knives thick enough to make sure that it kept that edge retention behind the bevels, but they didn't really need to worry about it snapping from hard use. It is designed to be a knife to cut things, and at some point somebody might try and use it for something that is quite tough to cut with, but they appreciate that will happen, but they wanted to make sure that it still stayed nice and tough. For some measurements on here, when it is completely open, it measures in at, where are we, 18 centimeters. As I mentioned, they wanted to make sure that this kept within legal UK guidelines, so the length of the blade is just 7 centimeters. As I've already mentioned, it has a 4mm blade thickness. They had been thinking about using 2.5mm stock and 3.5mm stock, and if there is calls for this, then they may consider doing those. My personal view is this is perfect. The main difference between this one and the knife that I tested a few months back is this is a lot slimmer. This is a 4mm, whereas the previous friction folder that I tested out was a 6mm, I believe. So as mentioned, it's a completely flat grind, and there you can see etched in, you've got Leading Edge Knife Works. They have the logo on there, which I quite like, the logo. The carbon fibre and brass scales on this make it look super high value, and I really do think it does look super high value. On the end there is a small hole for a lanyard, and it came with a little lanyard here with a piece of wood on there as well. Hopefully you can see here, so on the inside you see that there are 4 pins for the structure of the knife, top, middle and bottom. The back pin here makes sure that it stops it over rotating, which you get with friction folders. The movement on this is super nice. It is incredibly smooth. On the inside you can see that there are some brass bushings in there, and one of the upgrades that this has had over the previous friction folder is this pivot pin, and this pivot pin is awesome. It is really, really, really nice. The extra 2 screws that you have on here are holding the construction together in there. And it's beautiful. It really is beautiful. So one of the differences, again, not to be pointing out too many differences, but this has a shorter tang. I'm a personal preferences. I do prefer a longer tang, and this is one of the bits of feedback that I gave to Leading Edge Knife Works. But having had it in hand now and having tested this out for a couple of weeks, I quite like the shorter one. I'd still do prefer a longer tang, but that's just me, you know. That's why they've got variations in different knives, and you know, you get to choose which knife you prefer. So on there you've got a little bit of jimping to help you to pull that back to make sure that it stays in there. It runs perfectly flush, and what you get with this is definitely you get this as a precision piece of craftsmanship. As far as centering is concerned, if you can see that there, it is perfectly centered, and there's roughly a millimetre to 2 millimeters gap between this back pin and knife when it closes, and it closes shut. There is absolutely no wiggle room on that whatsoever. Oh, and also on the back here you can see that there is a little bit of stone grooving cut into there, which makes it look really nice. Now, as far as cutting is concerned, this knife slices. It is absolutely amazing how well this cuts. Cutting through paper is super simple. Now, my paper cutting skills aren't the best, so I apologise. But what this knife does is it turns me into a paper cutting ninja. As far as cutting cardboard, again, you know, what I've tried to do is I've tried to show some common activities that you would do with a knife. I haven't really gone to town as far as trying to beat this up, mainly because I respect Leading Edge Knife Works craftsmanship too much to really beat the crap out of this knife. It's a stunning knife. So, you know, paper, it cuts really well. Cardboard, it cuts really well. As you can see here, we're also cutting some vegetables, which it is a pocket chef knife, so I'd have to cut some vegetables up to make sure that it does that well. But also, if you wanted to do something a little bit tougher, some of the things that you'd come across on a daily basis, you know, here's some cable ties, and you can see that it cuts through those perfectly as well. It really, really is a stunning knife. It is super sharp, and it kind of leaves me speechless. I mean, I talk about knives quite a bit, and there's a lot to talk about this knife, but sometimes when you get a knife in hand and you start to feel it and you start to, you know, just move it around in your hand, it just feels really nice. All of these grind lines perfectly sharp. It's got some character as well, which you don't tend to get in shop. It's not shop made, but you kind of your factory built knives, or what's the word that I'm trying to say here? Your production knives. That's it, production knives. So with a production knife, they are 999% perfect, and they don't have the character that you get with this. And what I mean by the character is the way that the this has been ground in there. There is a slight 0.5 millimeter overhang there, which, you know, it just gives it that character. Also on the inside here as well, where the scale and the liner meet, again, there's a slight 0.5 millimeter there. It shows that a real person has spent time making this knife, rather than it just being passed through a machine that does it perfectly and spits out exactly the same knife every time. There is character in this, the same way that there is a character in a Stingray's body when they were made and they were all slightly different, or one of those expensive cars where they're all handmade. That's the character that you get from this knife. So I find myself in a bit of a quandary now. The PCK is stunning, it really is. I think what this is a lot more of that elegance and class that it was inspired by the original Spydiechef, and I get it, I really do. What you get with this is more of a refined gentleman's friction folder pocket style knife. With the reduced stock, it feels slimmer in the pocket and just is perfect. The quandary that I'm at though is that I liked the heft and I liked the extra thickness in the stock of the original friction folder that I tested a few weeks back. So I'm unsure where to put my money, and that's a good thing. That really is a good thing, because I put my money where my mouth was before, and I said that the first custom knife that I will buy will be from Leading Edge Knife Works, and I'm now struggling because I like them both so much, so it's something for me to work on there. Huge thank you to Iv and Stephen from Leading Edge Knife Works for sending this to me. This is a review unit. I am the first to review this, but what will happen is when I finish with this will get posted back to Leading Edge Knife Works, and then they will resharpen it, give it a bit of a clean, and they'll send this out to another reviewer, playing second fiddle to the Moorlander, of course. But no, so this will get sent back to them, and yeah, this is not for me to keep, unfortunately. No. So a huge thank out. I keep doing it. Shout out, thank you. Maybe this should be a Moorlander thing. A huge thank out to those guys. They are truly awesome, and their craftsmanship is, yeah, it's next level. I'll leave some links in the description below so that you can see more about Leading Edge Knife Works, where to find them on social media, the website, and so on and so forth. I'll also leave some links for me in the description below so that you can find out a little bit more about me, and also my links to my Instagram channel, which is Moorlander_EDC. I'm also on Facebook, but you know, I tend to be on Instagram a little bit more. I think that's about it for now. I hope you've enjoyed this Friday release. If it is something that you prefer over the Sundays, then I might start releasing them on Fridays instead. But for now, stay safe, stay Moorlander, stay EDC.